Hello everyone, my name is Jan and I am CG artist. I'm using Houdini since 1 year. Before that I had experience with mostly 3ds Max and architectural visualizations, as well as a little bit Unity. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to use Python to set up passes for rendering in Houdini. The goal is to have a character like this. This is a character I modeled to practice modeling in Houdini mostly. So I want to have it as a separate pass without the backdrop, and also the backdrop without the character as another pass, so I can compose in compositing, change the color of the background and other things like that. And also this can be expanded to include another characters or versions of the characters. So if it's only one character and one backdrop, it's easy to do it manually, but it's not really scalable. So you can set up passes also using take lists in Houdini. It's pretty easy as well, but the disadvantage is that you cannot see the objects that you are going to render. Like now I can set up different configurations, but these are not stored in the passes. The display flags, you can animate or store the display flags also in the takes, but not the actual display flags. It's just another display parameter. And also using Python can help in some other cases when you have digital assets and objects inside the digital assets. So overall it's a pretty cool way to do it. So just a brief introduction to Python in Houdini. So in Python you can address all the objects in the scene like that. This is a function in Houdini Python, and how is the main module, and then this is a function node, and if you just do it like that, it prints what is the node that you're specifying here in this argument for the function. So this function, when you put it an argument inside of it, it returns how.capital and node, Houdini node basically. So now we have this as an object, and we can set parameters on it. For example, we can set the display flag from here. Actually this is not a parameter, it's just argument. So yeah, and also we can set up all the parameters from here. For example, how.node, actually let's just drag it again. You can set, for example, the scale parameter. Yeah, you have to put it as a string. And now we change the scale. So we are going to just use this method and use it to set up render passes with the script function in the H script. So the first pass is going to be the character 1 is going to be like that, and the backdrop, I have separate backdrops for the reflection and shadow pass, and for the beauty pass separately, because I want to grab them as separate image planes. So basically this is the first pass, and it has to have render visibility here set to phantom. So let's see how it renders. It renders in nothing because yeah, here the display, the render visibility has to be visible to all. So the first pass is the character as visible to all, and the background is phantom, and then the second pass should be with the backdrop for the passes with visible to all, and the character should be phantom. Now I have the backdrop, and the good thing is when it's phantom, the character is casting GI and reflections to the backdrop, and also the backdrop is casting GI to the character. So, and yeah, so that's the goal. So to do it in Python, we first are going to define some functions and then call these functions from the render nodes. In the Python source editor, we can define a function, for example, let's say for starters, define hello world. So now we can call this function like that, how.session. That's the Houdini session module, and we call the function hello world, and it prints hello world. So now we are going to use this same technique to create a function that controls our scene objects. So the first function is going to be turn off scene, and it's going to basically turn off all scene objects, so we have a fresh start, and then after that turn only the objects on which we need. Turn off scene. So the content of the function for each node, this can be node or anything else, this is just a holder for the objects inside the main node, main object node. So we need all the children of this node, and for each of the child nodes of the main node we want to try to set the display flag, because if we don't use try but directly just say set display flag, it may give an error if we have a node that doesn't have a display flag, like for example material network. So we're going to try node.set display flag to 0. We want to turn all scene objects, and if it doesn't work, going to print something. So that's our first function. Let's see how it works. Yeah. So it remembers some old commands. I don't know why it's not updating immediately, but we now have this here. So let's try it. And it works. And it's also good to set up all the visibility to visible to all, because when we set up some different passes we modify these values, and it's good when we want to start fresh to set it again back to the regular value, which is visible to all. So we want to try to set the parameter render visibility. Set it to star, and if it doesn't work we're gonna print no, like that, no errors. So Let's see if it works. No render visibility parameter. So there is no render visibility parameter on a lot of objects, like these nulls here. They don't have render visibility, the material network, the lights, but it works for the objects that has the parameter, so it works. And now we have this fresh start here, so now we're gonna turn on only the objects we need for this particular pass we are interested in. I'm gonna create a function with 3 arguments, because by the way, this, for example, this is a function which takes only 1 argument. This shows how many arguments the function needs, and in this case it needs a string argument which points to the object, but some functions can have more than 1 argument. I cannot think of one right now, but there are a lot of functions that require more than 1 argument. Let's try this one, for example. This also takes 1 argument, but if a function requires more arguments, you typically separate them like that by comma. So in this case we are going to have 3 arguments. The first one is going to be a string. It's going to be the name of the bundle list. I have organized my scene in bundle lists. The 1 character is 1 bundle list. The studio beauty pass is 1 bundle, and the ground studio for the passes is another. So I'm going to use a string value here, another string value for the actual visibility parameter. This is now setting the default value to star, and another integer argument called flag is going to be a display flag, going to default to 1. And now for all the nodes in the node bundle with the given string name. So here I'm going to put this variable. So for all the nodes in this bundle, we are going to try to set the display flag, and again the same things, but now we are going to set it to 1, because this is going to be only our desired objects that we are going to render in the particular pass. And we are actually not going to set it to 1 but to flag, because we want to have the option to set it also to 0, and here we are not going to set it to star, but we are going to set it to the visibility argument variable, which is string. And if we give it a star, or if we leave it to default, then here it's going to be a star, and if we print something else, then it's going to be what we want. And also, yeah, that's all. We're going to iterate over the bundle with the given name, and I think that's good for now. So let's try how it works. Whole.session dot visibility, and for example, if we want to go over, let's say, this bundle here, so with the default options it just turns it on, because the flag is defaulting to 1, and the visibility is set to visible to all. So now if we call the function again, but as well as the name of the bundle, we are also going to give another value for the visibility. So it takes the second argument and puts it here, and it changes the visibility to minus primary. We can also turn it off from here. set the display flag to 0. And yeah, so now just to use this in the render nodes, we are going to create a couple of lines of code which don't have to be here but only on the render nodes. So I'm going to change this to Python, and in the beginning we want to first turn off all the scene objects, so we're going to call this function, and let's copy it here so that we have it. But first you're going to turn off everything, and now because this is the beauty pass for the character 1, we are going to call the other function. And we are going to set up the visibility for character 1, and because we use the default value, it just turns it on. I'm going to put it also here. This doesn't have to be here, I'm just copying it here, and then I'm going to paste it in the render node, the script field, and then I'm going to delete it from the session module. Yeah, I can use an external editor for that, but I'm just doing it here. So, and we also need the ground object, but with visibility set to -primary. So go it again. And we're going to set the visibility to -primary. So now we have all the objects that we need for this pass set up correctly. And let's see how it renders. I'm now just copying the content of this here, and now I can delete it from here, but I'll just leave it for now because we are going to use the same setting also for the other render nodes with different values. So this is the way it should look. And now for the passes we need similar thing, but for the character we are going to set the visibility to -primary, and for the ground object we need the other ground object, which is passes. In the bundle list we can have it here, and we need it with default values. So let's see how this works. Looks correct for now. So I'm going to put this script here. Now I have created a material. Yeah, I have to render the other node, of course, passes. So I have separate objects for the passes and for the main beauty pass, because I didn't want to have this back here to have shadows vertical and stuff. I just wanted the shadows and the reflection on the ground, and I have these extra image planes for the shadow and the reflection, and now I can use it in compositing to change the background color, for example. So now we have this correctly working, and for the other character we basically need to use the same thing, but with different names. Yeah, had to copy it here. the same setting for the other character. So let's see how it works. Unknown comment. That's because we are using HScript. And now I can delete it from here, because in the session module it's best to have only the functions and call them from other places in the interface. So it's a bit of quite a lot of work maybe for such a small thing, but it's very scalable. You can use this process with many more objects, and also you can use Python code to turn off and on different objects on different frames, and it's pretty powerful overall. For such a small task, maybe it's not worth it, but I was really glad to came up with this workflow because it's really powerful. So that's my first tutorial ever. I hope you like it, and maybe I make more Houdini tutorials in the future. Bye.